Hello, and I hope you've had a wonderful Christmas. I am batching these episodes, so we haven't had Christmas yet, but I know that it's going to be really, really awesome. And on Boxing Day, we're swimming to Rangitoto Island, which is a 5K swim, and then going to the races. So fingers crossed, I've picked the best horse, and I have won loads of money at the races. That'd be great, and had a good time. Anyway, make sure you check on the Instagrams, Penny_Elliott_, and you'll be able to see some of the pictures and some of the stories that I put up about those events. So go and check them out. I'd like to welcome you to the second of 3 episodes, Penergy episodes on the Get Momentum podcast, where we mix the woo with the do. And the first Penergy episode is what COVID is teaching us, and it's my viewpoint. It's not gospel, but it was my viewpoint, and I hope that you found it interesting. Let me know. And this one, we're going to talk about 2020 and the reflection I've had on 2020. I belong to 20K Nation, which is run by Katia Verbia, and she did a really cool exercise about stop. What are you going to stop doing in 2020? What are you going to let go in 2020? What are you going to begin? So what are you going to stop doing in 2021? What are you going to let go of in 2021? What are you going to begin in 2021? And what do you want to attract in 2021? And then I have added 2 more on, which is what are you going to leave to the universe to sort out? And how are you going to be in 2021 to get these things that you want? So the thing about 2020, I've written pages and pages about 2020, and if you followed along with me over 2020, it's been a interesting year. So I started off with my book launch of the Get Momentum 100K in 100 Days book that I wrote, and it's now an Amazon #1 bestseller. It was first of all an Amazon #1 best release, and now it is a bestseller on Amazon. And I'd like to say thank you very much to everyone who has purchased a copy and tagged me on Instagram and showed me where you guys were reading it. It's just so awesome. Writing a book is really, really scary. It's I thought it was going to be hard work because of the sheer number of words that you have to write, but it's not that. It's the doubt that you get halfway several times over about like, who's going to read this shit, and you just have to push through it. So I started the year with launching that with some other great friends, online friends and coaches. They all came to the book launch party, and we had a really cool party to start with. Then obviously COVID unraveled my wall planner, which was all of the launch dates that I was going to have, all of the live events I was going to run, because I really wanted to move into live events last year, and public speaking, and that obviously didn't happen. The other thing that happened that was a major was in my personal life, and I'm sure you've seen the Jim Fortin podcast about how I left my husband, and I have a 2-year-old. Well, he's turned 2 this year. So that was a pretty big major. He was only a year and a half when I got my husband out of the house, to say it politely. And he's now my ex-husband. I bought him out of the house. I was really proud to be able to do that, and I was proud that I had continued running my business while he was being born, while I had Josh, because it meant that I was financially able to buy him out. And I'm really, really grateful to all of my coaches and mentors who have helped me in the past 4 years to be able to set up a business that enabled me to be financially capable on my own, to look after my little boy and buy my ex-husband out of the house. You know, most women get given the house, but no, I had to buy him out. And he, and then work out this whole like co-parenting thing. And I then did the house up, and then I put it on the market and I sold it, and moved house and into something that's a lot easier for Josh to play in. And then, so that was sort of all happening on the personal side. which was a bit of a tough thing to do because of the stigma that they try and tell you about, being divorced and a solo mom with a small child. But actually, I decided to look at it with the glass half full and thought that this was a really good decision for me, my mental health, and my little boy, to show him what good relationships look like and what good home life looked like. So that happened. And in the meantime, I set up a done for you agency. And we hired a team, and I had probably 5 staff leave within a month, which was super stressful because I've got clients. We're trying to build a client base up, get more and more clients on. And I really wanted to give them excellent service because we only do excellent service here. And they kept leaving. And so that meant I was picking the ball up whilst dealing with all the paperwork of what was happening in my personal life that I just said. There's a lot of paperwork. And so I was just drowning. And I ended up writing my car off. And one day, I think I fell out of the car the next day and bruised all the side of my face. And in the end, it was just a huge universal cataclysmic explosion to say, you need to stop doing done for you. And I had so many staff like come and go and fluctuate. And there was lots and lots of lessons to be learned from that. And one of the lessons that I learned that I would like to share with you is about hiring staff. I hired because I was stuck and I needed someone to do this and I needed someone to do that. And I was like, holy shit, I need this for the client. Oh my God, I need to deliver this. Excuse me. And I hired to fill a gap. And I know from my sales experience and my managerial experience that is dangerous. But I was in this trap. And I couldn't get out of it because I kept having this one fall over and that one fall over and that one fall over. And I needed to fill that fire and fill that fire. And just when I started to get to an even keel, I had a client who didn't get some reporting on time, and she didn't get the reporting on time because her credit card failed. And so there was nothing to report on the Facebook ads. And she badmouthed me to all my other clients. And they all left. And I only had a couple of clients left. And one of them finished with me because she'd been with me for like 2.5 years. So that was a normal end to a cycle. But I went from having, 20K months to nothing overnight. And no car, because I'd wrote off my car and bruised face. And it was just crazy. And I want to share that with you because I want you to know that it's not a straight line to the top. And we always talk about that in the Get Momentum podcast, is that it's not the straight line to the top. So sales does not just increase. You need to look at it over your year. And you need to look at what you've been doing to fill your pipe all year. So, so that was a pretty big blow. And then the last thing that really upset me was my virtual assistant, who I've had for a long time and helped support a lot, ended up working with all of my old clients for an absolute fraction of the cost that I was charging them. So there's just zero way that I could compete with that. And it was really, really upsetting that that level of IP and education, and she had passwords to everything that I've ever developed, and all of the help and that I'd given her, she was then using with my full suite of old clients. And I guess a way that I could look at that is like be really pissed off. Or the other thing is, I feel a little bit sorry for them that they are undercharging so much, and that she could have developed a much better model where it was a lot more lucrative for her and actually paid her for the value that she gives. And actually, when I worked in sales as the sales director and on the board, if you could get someone to fulfill your place, then you had done your job properly because you had passed on all your knowledge and wasn't being a gatekeeper. So I've taken that attitude on that one as well. The other thing that was a real highlight for 2020 is launching the Get Momentum podcast. I had such a great time launching it. I absolutely love it. And it is one of the major things that I'm keeping for 2021 in my business. So I guess after this year, there has been a lot of fear and doubt that has come into my head. I've had a lot of, I guess, raw conversations with people, including like my mum, and everyone's fears projected onto me about being a solo mum and how am I going to afford a house and how am I going to afford a mortgage. And, you know, I'm a shit coach. You know, I've been told instead of being a coach, I should be a mentor because I don't actually coach people. I just tell them what to do. I've had a lot of confronting, I guess, conversations. I've had a lot of people, you know, telling me that I'm awful, I'm this, I'm that. I'm like, how dare I? I'm so bold, blah, blah, blah. But what, and I guess the biggest word, I mean, you know, it was meant to be growth. And, you know, we set these words at the beginning of the year and, you know, I look at them every single day. And I think the biggest thing that came through for me in 2021 in 2020 when I did my reflection was in my business was fear procrastination. And so I've procrastinated a lot on a lot of things that I wanted to do or say in my business in 2020 because of fear. Because I was getting hammered from so many different angles, whether it was people leaving, whether it was people in my personal life. I've lost several very close girlfriends because they think that it's ungodly what I did to my husband who was abusive to me. And, you know, a client bad-mouthing me to that extent is pretty grim to then be sent screen grabs of those messages. So I've had a couple of months where I've just let things tick over and I've been in fear. I haven't even wanted to change my homepage, you know, and reflect all of the amazing people I've interviewed on this podcast because I'm kind of like, what's the point? So maybe you felt this way too. Maybe in a different guise. Maybe you felt that fear procrastination has really held you back. But I know that it's not something everlasting because I've had fear in lots of other areas of my world and I've overcome them and moved forward and made a much better life for myself. And on January the 11th in the Northern Hemisphere, or January the 12th, if you're listening from New Zealand or Australia, I'm going to run better productivity, energy business. It's going to be tried and tested techniques and ways of working and operating that I've used. And it's kept my business open for 4 years now. I've seen, you know, I've had my book launch this year. I've had my podcast launch this year. We've had a Done For You agency launch this year, which is now not there anymore. I have done quite a few things. I've also completed quite a lot of personal development. I did Jim Fortin's transformational coaching program. I've been part of 20K Nation all year, the Viral Template Content Club. I've also been part of BBD, Business by Design with James Wedmore. And I've also been in Rachel McMichael's The Business with Impact Society all year as well. So I've definitely worked on my development all year, and my personal development and my business development, so that I can then pass that on to all of my clients. So stay tuned to the next episode. Make sure that you have an amazing new year. Make sure that you spend time reflecting on 2020 and trying to turn, everyone's like, oh, reflect on 2020 and then set new goals. Well, what I read in a book called Ichigo Ichi, it's a Japanese book, And it is about how you, one of the ceremonies in there is about teacups that used to get broken, and they would staple them back together. And so were like beautiful teacups. And then they would fill them with gold. There's a certain name for it, but I can't quite remember it. And they would fill the cracks with gold. And what it was showing was that actually in a place of destruction or something, bad, breaking a teacup, when they fill the crack with gold, they're actually highlighting that crack and making it sparkle and creating something beautiful and new out of this broken teacup. And I really thought about how 2020, we've all been broken in some way, and how we could fill those cracks with gold. So maybe instead of the usual, because obviously 2020 is not usual, instead of writing down what you want to do differently in 2021, you could actually look at 2020 and what broke, and then how you can fill that with gold. So how you can actually flip it on its head and show that this is a great situation, and how you have become a more beautiful teacup from these breaks. So for example, my separation, my divorce, and my changing of location of house has shown me that I need to be a lot more picky with who I share a life with, and not just to go with the flow. Interestingly, that is also the gold that I have filled in the crack of having so many staff members come and go. They were going, then they were coming, and then they were going and disappearing. And the same with clients who were, quite frankly, assholes. Those clients that you don't want. And so those cracks in my business and in my personal life, I have filled with gold, and come down to the point that I need to be a lot more picky with the people I spend time with, a little less happy-go-lucky, and make sure that I surround myself with amazing people. And that wouldn't have come if I'd said, what do I want to achieve in 2021? Because I've got it written down here, what I want to achieve in 2021, and it's all metrics. Right, so this is where we're matching the woo with the do. So your gold is the woo, right? So what was the gold that you got out of 2020's cracks? So I hope you found that episode helpful. I hope that you're going to celebrate New Year's in an awesome way. I always like to not go out on New Year's Eve, because I think that you can never get a bloody taxi. It always ends in a nightmare because people start drinking way too early, and it's crazy. And so I actually like starting the new year on doing something really cool on New Year's Day. So let me know what you're up to. Send me a DM on Penny_Elliott_ on Instagram, or tag me in a post or in an Instagram story of where you're at listening to this. And I hope you found this episode relatable, in the fact that life is not easy, business is not easy, and even the people who are cranking it at the top and have multiple six-figure businesses have shit that happens to them that just crumbles you to the core and makes you want to hide for a couple of months. So if you felt this, or even a small amount of this throughout the year, you're not alone. And next year's a new year, and you can do it all over again, but bigger and better. And I'm going to show you, don't forget, mark it in your diary, January 11, we've got some new training coming out, and I'm going to show you how. Till then.